Okay. Good morning, all, and welcome. So, for those of you that don't know, as far as Matthew's situation, the last I heard, Amy is resting. She's okay, but she did break her ankle in three places falling down the stairs last night. And so she may or may not need orthopedic surgery, which is that sucks. So definitely going to be a rough Thanksgiving at the Bennett residence this year. And hey, LD, yeah, Matthew himself is fine. If the audio and video is out of sync, I don't know what to tell you, Bird. I'm just running standard settings. It, you know how it goes. It does that sometimes. And hey, LD, yeah, Matthew himself is fine. Yeah, it's a little out of sync for me too. I don't know what to tell you. I could stop and start the stream, but yeah. But yeah, they so yeah, Mrs. Matthew Amy, she is going that is a rough break. And so a triple break. I guess she was like putting one of the kids to bed, and yeah. So definitely be thinking about her, and and I know it's hard sometimes because we can all be a little snarky sometimes. But try to give Matthew a little bit of grace over the coming months, as because he's going to be having to be both mom and dad around the house for the foreseeable future. The good news, and he was actually, when I was messaging back and forth, um, is that he does have other extended family nearby. I don't know if it's like his parents or her parents or something, and so they're helping out. So like when he was taking care of the kids last night, one of the uh, grandparents was going to the pharmacy to pick up Amy's new medications for, and so um, that's good. But boy, yeah, that's no fun. Um, anyway, but that's all I know at this point. If Matthew wants to share more, he can. I don't know what he's planning on doing this week, but he did tell me that he didn't have any problem with me sharing with you guys what I knew. Um, and so good to see you guys this morning. Um, and so Arabic was first, yes indeed. Bird of Prey 5 is here, says Kapla. And then Arabic says Kapla back to Bird. 47 Yorktown is here from Eastern Canada. And Bird says, good morning. Any rules on the stream? No? Ah, good. We will watch then. Well, the only rules are that, we try to keep hate. We leave that checked at the door. Generally speaking, on the Sunday morning live stream, I don't mind talking about almost any topic as long as we can keep a level head. But when things start spiraling out of control, I try to cut it off because, yeah. Or if it's a topic that Google wants to censor, so. And sorry, I know for those of you that are free speech nuts, I certainly understand that position. But at the same time, this is Google's playground and they write the rules for it. So if they say that we are not to discuss certain topics, we will not discuss those topics. They write the rules. And I will abide by them. So, and then LD asks if Matthew is okay. Well, yeah, he's fine, aside from being a little stressed out. Um, and Arabic saying, sorry for LD's loss. Yes, indeed. Loss of a parent is tough. I will tell you, it's something that almost everybody eventually in their life has to deal with. And it's something that, even when you're prepared for it, is something that is, I mean, well, it's funny because unless you truly hate your parents, it's just one of those things that, yeah, there's no amount of prepping for it. The only person I ever knew that did not have a difficult time when one of his parents died was a person who absolutely despised one of his parents. So, um, it's just one of those things that, if losing someone you love, no matter how much you may expect it, it's gonna hit you. And even further extended, like like my parents are gone. Both my mom and dad are gone. um and so now, I and my grandparents long gone. And but I still have um aunts, uncles, cousins, that are older than me, so that will likely pass away before me. And as such, even though they're not super duper close to me, you're gonna feel it, because even though they weren't particularly close, and hello, you want to say hi to everybody? Yeah. And even though we're not particularly close, it's just a kind of a security feeling of knowing that that person's always been a part of your life. And then when they're gone, they're just gone. And so, yeah. Um, but parents is one of the first to really hit home, because when your parent, assuming that you were in a somewhat normal family relationship, parents raised you, which means that you had that feeling of security around your parents. And so that sense of security is lost at that point, and now you are truly on your own for the first time. Even though, yeah, you've probably been on your own for a significant amount of time, but from a psychological perspective, you really feel it for the first time. And so, like when my mom died about 7 years ago now, um, it was kind of strange because, technically speaking, I could call myself an orphan at that point. And it was like, wow, I don't have any parents alive anymore, and it's a very odd feeling. Um, and so, Bird says falling downstairs is rough this time of year. Don't know what time of year it wouldn't be. Stan Lee says, I broke my wrist and it required surgery. It was a pain. That sound, yeah. I broke my wrist when I was a kid, and yeah, it's breaking one of those joint like a wrist or an ankle can be such a tough recovery. So yeah, Sci-Fi Nation says prayers to Mrs. Matthew. Yes, indeed. Um, let's continue on. Um, da, 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 da. And let's see. Stanley says had broke it falling down the stairs trying to get to the bathroom at 4 a.m. Ooh, man. And LD says best wishes and prayers to Amy. Sorry to hear that. Yeah, it's rough. Without turning the light on the stairway. Yeah, don't. Yeah, you know what? It sounds stupid, but don't be stupid and take for granted things like that. Do things like use the handrail when you're walking up and down the stairs. turn the light on when you're walking through down the hallway. Do the basic safety stuff, especially at home. That's why so many accidents happen at home, because we just don't take proper safety precautions. We don't think about things like, oh, I don't need to turn the lights on. It's my own stairs. And we don't realize that the kids left the little toy car on the third step down. And next thing we know, unfortunately, it's just her ankle. Imagine if she had broken her back or her neck, so, let's be thankful that it was something like her ankle. And Aberjam says, good morning. How you doing, Aberjam? Stanley says, sound like he'll be waiting on his wife. Yes, indeed. Captain Trek says, hello. How you doing, Captain Trek? Jason, haven't talked to you in a while. Says, oh my salty trekker, let's pray indeed. Prayer works. My son got the good news this week and no surgery for his ankle. That's good news. We don't know if Amy's going to need surgery yet. I haven't heard anything on that, but of course it just happened last night. So we probably won't know if she's going to need surgery for at least a week or so. But I'm sure Matthew will keep us informed. Hopefully we'll know by the next movie night with Matthew, which won't be until a week from Friday, because keep in mind this is Thanksgiving week, so we won't be doing movie night this week. Kermit is in the house, says, saw the end of the Foundation series. What did you think about the ending? Also, Wheel of Time was very good. I have not watched the end of the series yet, Kermit, so I will let you know after I get a chance to see it. I'm getting worried about that. My dad is almost 73. My mom is 70, both currently in great health, though. Well, the funny thing is, you might have 20 years, you might have 20 days. And I will say this, Stanley, when you have elderly parents, cherish every minute. Learn everything you can from them. Spend as much time as you can with them and enjoy their company. That's my advice to you. Let's see. LD says, my dad was a great person. I wouldn't be half the man I am today if it wasn't for him. I miss the cheat out of him. I get it, man. I do. And I know you miss him. Bird says, are you interested in employment in the mines? I am definitely not interested in employment in the mines. Thank you for asking, Bird. Sci-Fi Nation says, my missus needs a walker and we live in a second-story apartment. Going up and down is eventful. I'll bet. Yeah, I can't get around without a cane. If I lived in a second-story apartment, I don't know how I would do it. So yeah, I am sorry that you're dealing your missus is dealing with that. And so, yeah, as it is, I slow everybody down when we're walking around. So that's rough going. Jay says, yes, sir. It has been a busy few weeks. Been being a hands-on parent and still working. Praise the Lord. I get to work from home now for the real funny. ... And Robert says, good morning. How you doing, Robert? Stanley says, yep, visit me every week or two. Yeah, we visit every week or two. Oh, good. And keep it up then. Jason says, the bone in his ankle that was fractured was his talus, just not talus 4. And Average saying hi to Captain Trek. Kermit says, I had elderly relatives who were in their 80s or 90s, died a few years apart. And you come to expect it. Death is as cheesy as of a line as it was. Yoda's correct that death is a natural part of life, right? It's the way that life ends. And it's something that none of us will escape. And, it's funny because I genuinely do not fear death. I just not a big fan of the actual transition. You know, it's like the death part doesn't bother me. It's the dying part I'm not a big fan of, you know. And but I'm hoping that I just assume have it be one of those. Yeah, they died in their sleep, you know. But with my luck, it's like, oh yeah, you wake up and then suffer for 8 hours. That's that's how I always figure if it'll be for me. Um, but I know that it's just one of those things that when our time on this world is over, it's over. And then the only question becomes, what's next? And that's where, depending on your worldview, we have various differences of opinion. And I know that, you know, some of us look forward to what's on the other side, some of us dread it. Or not even dread it, some of us are ambivalent about it. Particularly atheists are just like, well, yeah, it's just the end. Um, but I don't think it's the end. I think, if anything, it's just the beginning. Um, but the Stanley says, I assume you don't believe in euthanasia. No, I do not. Um, there are times, because I'll tell you, and since we're on this subject, there are times when I think about it because, like, I'm obviously in significant discomfort all the time, right? I've been in some level of pain for well over a decade now. And and there, at least based on current level of medicine, I will be in some level of discomfort till the day I die. Even if they completely legalize the certain herbal remedies here, that doesn't completely get rid of all the pain. That just helps. And so far, at least with the various medications that the doctors have tried, none of them get rid of the pain. Some help a little bit here and there. But there's nothing that makes me feel like, oh, hey, pain free. I have not had a completely pain-free day in a very, very long time, as far back now that I can remember. Um, and so there are times when you think, well, gee, if life, if life is literally becoming what that line in The Princess Bride was, where life is pain. If I'm just going to be in discomfort from now on, why not advocate for euthanasia, right? Why not advocate for just ending it? Like, let's suppose hypothetically that my wife died in a car accident or something, and so now I'm all alone, and the and so now I'm sitting here by myself with nothing to do. Shouldn't I want to die with dignity, as people say? No, I don't think that. I think from a philosophical perspective, the answer is no. I think that, now granted, that comes from a theistic perspective. If I was an atheist, I would have a very different perspective on things, but I think that it negates the idea of purpose. That if your life has a purpose to it, that euthanizing yourself basically is taking away that purpose, and you are denying others of whatever it is you are meant to do. Let's see. Karen says, one of them was active at the very end. I barely knew them, so I never had an emotion whatsoever, except one of them looked like they were asleep, so it was scary in a way. Oh, you're talking about your older relatives that passed away? Jay says, I am the oldest child of the youngest of my father's side, 5 kids, second youngest on my mother's, 9 kids. The next 20 years are going to be a lot of mourning, to be sure. Whew, man, I don't even want to think about that, Jason. Sci-Fi says, we had a trial here in Michigan. I don't even, what is, I assume that's just a butchered way of saying Michigan. Back in the day, Dr. K, yeah, I remember Dr. K, AT knows who that is. Well, yeah, I remember Dr. K, Dr. Kevorkian. And Yosef, good to see you, says, I'm all for euthanasia. If we can get the comfort to our pets, we should be able to allow people to avoid suffering. I think there's a difference between animals and people. And I know that for some people they see they're the same thing. I don't. But that's just a philosophical difference between us. And I think that that does come from a difference between an atheistic worldview versus a theistic one. You know, and don't get me wrong, I do, I do think that sometimes, as far as our pets are concerned, I don't think we should let our pets suffer. But I also don't think that our pets are people. Captain Trey, well, talking to Yosef, Kermit says, can't you get your pain receptors or nerves dulled or whatever it's called? Well, you can get certain pain receptors or nerves dulled, but you can't get them all dulled. And you have to keep in mind that with MS, it's kind of, what? There's really, I mean, it's kind of everywhere.
Spice must flow.
And thank you.
Slovak_goat $3. Drink my milk. It will end your suffering. For good.
I definitely don't think that would end the suffering. I think that would just increase the suffering. But thank you, Slavic Goat. I do truly appreciate it. I think, yeah, let's see. Jason says, I think he had that done once last year as a short term. Yeah. What they did was they burnt the nerve endings off in my lower back, and that did help the lower back pain. But the problem is that they would have to burn off the nerve endings everywhere in my body, and that's not doable. Kermit says, you're not alone. What about your dogs? Well, that's true. Well, we got to praying here. And let's see. Bird says, it's denying God's right to make my suffering part of his plan. One way to look at it. Well, I do think that an individual's suffering can be a part of the plan. And it may seem cruel from one person's perspective, but it may be helpful to another's. Are we pulling on my shirt? Arabic says, any luck looking for a new place where herbal remedies are available? Probably not, Arabic. Just being realistic about it is that the big problem is that there's the drive time. If like we liked Metropolis a lot, but the hour and a half drive we just determined would be too much. And so we ruled that out. So I will probably try to stay a little closer, but honestly, yeah, we're just gonna keep looking till we find the right place. Yes, I know. You're always scratching. Yeah, I get you to the vet because you don't have fleas. Um, Anyway, break your neck. Yeah, I don't plan on breaking your neck. But MS is neurological, right? Yes, MS is neurological. And many of the medications that I take are designed to try to block neurological pain. The problem is that at this point there's not a medication that just perfectly blocks neurological pain. Um, and the short version of what MS is it's like your immune system is attacking your nervous system. Um, and Jordan, I'm not going to even read that comment because Google. Count Drek says, "What if you were in the hospital and you will die within days, and you can take an extra dose of meds and go to sleep?" Um, well, that's interesting, Captain Trek. I think run into the Dr. McCoy scenario as bad a movie as it was. I think that I think that it actually illustrates the problem with that type of thinking very well in Star Trek Five. What if you do exactly that, and then in those few days, in between the time that you take your medicine and go to sleep, and the time you would have died naturally, and they found a cure? See? Um, just mail order. Screw the local laws. Yeah, I'm. That's not me, Stanley. I am a law-abiding citizen. I don't believe in or advocate for breaking the law. Trustin says, some heavy topics this morning. Just lost my grandparents over the last 20 years on both sides. Still think of them almost every day. Yeah, and it's one of those absences that you'll feel at one level or another forever, but the sting kind of settles down, but you'll always feel it. Um, and Stanley says morphine drip. I wish morphine worked for me. Morphine doesn't do jack for me. You could always put some time into getting herbal substances legalized where you live, then you wouldn't have to worry about drive times. Well, yeah, I am an advocate for legalization. And, it's, I absolutely am. At least for medical legalization. Didn't Picard refuse to let Beverly put Wesley to sleep for something because he deserved to face death? Yes. There was, I can't remember which episode it was, but they basically figured everybody was going to die and Beverly was going to knock him out, and and she said she just couldn't do it, and he said he deserved to face death on his own terms. And she was like, well, is that the male perspective? And it's like, wow, whatever. Um, but but I do think that it's the other thing about assisted suicide kind of thing is it's honestly it's a selfish way out. It is always a selfish way out. We may try to justify it as being, oh, I don't want to be a burden on others, or I don't want to, I don't want to be trouble or whatever. We're just doing it because we're tired of hurting. Nobody actually does it because they don't want to be a burden. They're doing it because they want to alleviate their own guilt. Or they want to alleviate their own pain, but they're not doing it because they're actually trying to think of others. Because if they're thinking about others, um, you know, think about the grieving that others will be caused through the loss. Think about how you would feel if a family member committed suicide. And so I think that it's I think there's too many moral issues with suicide. I think it's just a selfish way to deal with it. Um, Now, I understand that some people think that it's great and groovy and all that. I don't, but that's just my opinion. Um, watch Michael Schumacher doc and kept. They just kept him alive, but say nothing about his actual condition. But the family can't let him go. I have no idea what you're talking about. Stanley, no idea what you're talking about. Anyway, um, but yeah, I'm sorry I didn't have a better prepared topic because the thing from Matthew kind of hit me out of left field last night. Um, I think there's a difference between euthanasia and pulling the plug. Well, interesting statement because let me see. What's the definition of euthanasia? Is the painless killing of a patient suffering from an incurable and painful disease or an irreversible coma. So, no, euthanasia is literally pulling the plug. So, um, there's not a difference, but I think what you're thinking of is there's a difference between euthanasia and suicide. You could argue that, like, because pulling the plug and suicide are two different things, right? One is the choice of the doctors, and the other is the choice of the patient. Not a racing fan, I guess. Don't know Michael Schumacher. Yeah, no idea who you're talking about. Yeah. Um, So yeah, I didn't. Yeah, F1 race driver. Yeah, I don't know anything about him. Um, and so when we talk about euthanasia, generally speaking, that is pulling the plug, as opposed to assisted suicide, is the so-called death with dignity type thing, where people are making a conscious choice to kill themselves. Um, And Jason, yeah, the difference voluntary versus involuntary. Um, and I once contemplated, Jimmy says, I once contemplated suicide because I was so depressed, but I'm sure glad I didn't because my life turned around and now I'm happier than ever. Well, that's the funny thing is that people that consider suicide, um, it's, obviously nobody, when you're considering it, you're in a low, right? Nobody's like, things are great. I think I'm going to kill myself, right? That's obviously no one's thought process ever. But you know, the thing that people don't realize is that yes, things might be tough right now, but just because they're that bad now doesn't mean they're going to always be that bad. And almost everybody that chooses not to kill themselves, uh, ends up like you, Jimmy, where after the fact they're like, wow, I'm sure glad I didn't, you know. Not only did you avoid causing pain and suffering to those who cared about you, but your life now is much better than you imagined it could have been. And that's something that, because people just assume that, oh, my life sucks, therefore my life will always suck. and that's just not the case. The simple fact is that life sometimes sucks and sometimes doesn't. But a lot of times it does suck. Um, and Kermit says, I read a book series about an EMP taking out some power grids and plunging the United States into a blackout. The Russians were mentioned trying to make it permanent. Well, Kermit, this is not a sci-fi stream, but sounds like a sci-fi story. Mountains of Elysium says, greetings. How you doing, Mountains of Elysium? Robert says, just find you a close white lightning source. That is a legal, stronger version of legalized moonshine. Booze just doesn't do it for me. Don't get me wrong. I don't mind booze, but A, the hangover sucks, and B, yeah, it just doesn't. Yeah. I mean, while you're drunk, sure, the pain goes away, but then you got to deal with the hangover, and yeah, no thanks. Jason says it would go into things like DNRs as some old people, yeah, and a DNR is a little different too. Like I don't have a problem with a DNR. That's a little different. Like if somebody goes into a coma and they have a DNR, I don't have an issue with that. But I do have an issue with, hey, I want to die. The government should determine when any citizen is no longer fit to continue living for the good of the community. Wow, Bird. Only you would say that. Bird O'Prey 5 puts total trust in the government. There you go. Bradley says, a longtime friend of mine's mom was hooked up to machines for like 20 years, and one day she wrote him a note asking him to unplug her. He told me doing what she wanted was the hard. I assume. Let's see. A longtime friend of his mom was hooked up to the machines for like 20 years. One day she wrote him a note asking him to unplug her. He told me what. He told me doing what she wanted was. I assume the wasn't supposed to be was hard. I could imagine, and I couldn't do it. I couldn't kill her. My mom when she was diagnosed with terminal cancer, she was she asked about it, and they told her that she would have to go to Oregon for in order to get lethal drugs, because in California at the time she couldn't. And she was like, oh, well, I'll just go to Oregon. She said, and they said, well, you would have to go there before you were diagnosed. And she's like, oh, dang. But I was like, really? And she was, because she was like, well, she just figured she'd get it over with quickly. And it's like, wow, dang. But that's just the way some people, they don't value life. At the end, there was a group of preppers in the mountains that saved the country somehow. They're like, oh, look, it's over now. Everything's back to normal in a few years. Again, Kermit, different kind of stream. We're not talking about that kind of thing today. Average says, I have to agree with Stan Lee to a degree. There's a considerable difference between hastening death and ceasing to delay the death of someone who couldn't sustain life unaided. Well, I can see that. Like, as far as removing life support, I would consider that more along the lines of a DNR kind of thing. But I don't think that I could do it. I couldn't personally do it. And like what Bradley was talking about. If that makes any sense. So if we're talking about like, um, looking at the definitions, right? Um, if we're removing life support technology from a person, um, basically following a DNR. Well, that's on the doctors, right? So if a person has a DNR order standing, then the doctors are not to put that life support technology on them in the first place. Um, However, if the person has a breathing assist on them, or an IV or whatever, and you're telling me that you want me to remove that stuff, no. Sorry. Or if you want me to give them a lethal injection of something, no. Jordan says, can you turn your mic up a bit? Truck is loud and I'm having trouble hearing you. I cannot turn up the mic because I'm actually at full gain right now. Professor Brady Speck says, I cannot believe how long I've slept. Well, I don't know how long you've slept. How long have you slept? Kermit says, the author probably did not know how to end it, so he had the woman in the group call a general randomly until the pilot is over within 48 hours. How cheap is that? Again, different kind of stream, Kermit. Sorry about ranting about the book series. I just wanted to talk about it. I understand. Just this is just not the right stream for that. And Sci-Fi Nation says, I can't believe it's not butter for some reason. Mounds Elysium, I'm against euthanasia because that decision can be taken out of the patient's hands. Some countries in Europe, doctors have the right to euthanize patients even against their will. See, that's scary. And the idea that, the minute that becomes a state decision, oh man, you open a real can of worms. Professor says about 8 hours. Well, that's not too bad. I got about 3 hours of sleep last night. Man, these new drugs they're giving me are just killing me. I need more than 3 hours. And so, but yeah, no, Kermit's not talking about Foundation. He's talking about something he read. And Howard Stern said he believed in abortion up to the age of 3 years. Well, Howard Stern is a jerk, so, I mean, he says stuff like that just because he's a shock jock. He says stuff like that just because he knows it will piss off anybody with any lick of common sense, or that cares at all about the sanctity of life. So he'll say something like that just because it gets a rise out of people. And if somebody wants to have a real conversation about abortion, that's one thing. If somebody wants to say something like that, they don't want to have a conversation. And yes, Arabic, what's really going to bake his noodle is that he's really still asleep. This is actually just a dream, and Professor Rainey Specs doesn't realize it yet. All the drugs are belong to me, Salty Tricker 2021. I don't think I said that. Kermit says, thank you for being so understanding about my ranting. It's all right, man. We're all only human. Well, except for Bird. He's not really human. Aberdam says, I would question unplugging someone who is relatively pain-free, but if someone with constant crippling pain wanted their life support removed, not sure I'd think poorly of that. But then define crippling pain. Here's the problem. You know, Aberjam, and this is something that I became intimately acquainted with over the last several years dealing with insurance companies. You realize, of course, that pain cannot be measured objectively. So, what is crippling pain? And what if somebody is in crippling pain, but they're not on life support? You see? Where do you draw the line? And Professor Brainstrike says dreams don't work this way. They do now. This dream does. Robert says, I'm fortunate if I can get 5 to 6 hours of sleep at night nowadays. For me, it's like a mixed bag, depending on, like, because they keep changing my drug cocktail. And right now, they have me trying this medication that's, interestingly enough, my wife takes. And I don't like it at all. It dehydrates me. It knocks me out, but then it makes it so that I wakes me up a couple hours later. So, I feel like someone just hit me upside the head with a baseball bat right now. I do not like it at all. Jordan says, I'm crashing hard, been up since 5 yesterday, tearing up tile makes you real sore. Well, I can't do much of anything without getting real sore. Can crippling pain be the bill you get from the hospital? Well, the problem is like crippling pain is like, I'll tell you, the other day, on Thursday, I helped our church serve food to a bunch of college kids. And I was on my feet for about 3 hours, which is the most I've stood up in a while. And, I ran restaurants for a living for, gosh, a long, long time. Standing up for 3 hours used to mean nothing. But after the 3 hours, I was in so much pain the next day that just standing up, it felt like, it literally just felt like every bone in my foot was broken when I would stand up. It just felt like I was, like my toe bones, the balls of my feet, every bone in my foot was broken when I would stand. That's the level of pain. It was excruciating to stand. And it was like that for a couple of days. So that's crippling pain. That's literally crippling pain. So, even now, like that, you guys can see, this is a relatively plush chair, right? But where my back touches the chair, it hurts. It feels like I'm leaning up against a rock because of the ridiculous level of sensitivity that my nervous system has with the MS. And so everything that is in physical contact with something else just hurts. So my back, my butt, the back of my legs, everything that's in physical contact with something just hurts. And so I am very well acquainted with crippling pain, but I'm not on life support of any kind. So what if I decided that, it's not worth it. I just want to end it. Is that a reasonable excuse? Where do we draw the line? Carmen says, this is random, but what do you think about the Rittenhouse getting acquitted and the media getting freaked out? That's the best part. I don't think that there's a best part. In fact, I'm going to call you out on this, Kermit. If you're enjoying people getting freaked out over it, then your motivations are all wrong. There are people that genuinely feel that this was a miscarriage of justice because they feel that Rittenhouse was basically looking for trouble, and he found trouble, and two people lost their lives because of it. There are other people that feel that, that this was perfectly legit. I feel kind of mixed on this. I think that while a full acquittal was inappropriate, I do think that if they had made him guilty for, say, murder charges, I think that would have been a bit harsh. And I think that now, without having watched the entire trial, I can't give complete detailed explanation, but from what I've seen of it and just Reader's Digest descriptions of some of the stuff, the judge throwing out the gun violation charges is absolutely wrong, because he was clearly breaking the law when it comes to various gun regulations. And I do think that some lower than murder charges would have been appropriate based on what we've seen. However, so I don't think that, do I think that Rittenhouse should have been strung up and locked away with the key thrown away? No. Do I think that he should have walked away scot-free? Absolutely not. I think that, but I also think that the judge was extremely prejudiced in this case. That's just my opinion on it. I draw a line between hastening death and ceasing to delay it. If your body's default status is clinically dead, I don't think I deny someone the right to let nature take its course. Fair enough. Many that live deserve death. Many who have died deserve life. Can you give it to them? Then don't be too quick to dispense death. Not even with the wise can see all ends. Gandalf, Lord of the Rings. Okay. To me, pain is a motivator, not a degenerator. Well, that's great if you are, depending on the type of pain you're talking about. Because pain can be a motivator if you can work through pain, if you can, for example, exercise pain. The pain of forcing yourself through something, breakthrough pain, that kind of thing. But then, certain types of pain that are just roadblock pain, you can't do anything about, and it's hard to be motivated by a pain that literally stops you. And so, yeah. Jason says, for all of us that are closing in on 50 and past it, in some form of pain, on frequent discomfort, it's almost assured. So, yeah, how does any idea of just giving up work?
WWJD $2. Does Jesus support the Second Amendment?
Jesus is not an American citizen, so I don't think Jesus has an opinion on the Second Amendment. Sorry, all you Christians that think that the Bible was written for the United States. It wasn't. And by the way, for all you people that think that the United States Constitution is the Bible, it's not. After watching the trial and glad he was deemed not guilty, the gun charge was dismissed because the gun in question followed the current laws for 17-year-olds. Jordan, I'm sure you think so. Aberjam says, unless you have seen the relevant section of the trial and read the long question, I don't think you are in adequate position to comment whether or not he broke any gun law. Well, I was asked, Aberjam. I just gave my... You see, this is the problem. Somebody asks a question, I give my opinion, then everybody wants to attack me for giving my opinion. I understand that I, for the most part, have a more conservative following on this channel. However, sorry, I don't worship at the altar of Trump. Euthanasia can be used against the patient. It has always seemed like a negative of the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. Agreed. And Bird says, if you watch the trial... Look, I'm not here to argue about the freaking trial. This is why I didn't bring it up in the first place. You know what? I wasn't all that interested in the trial in the first place. However, you know what I will say? Watching some of that footage, saying that the kid didn't do anything wrong is BS. You know, saying that the kid didn't go there looking for trouble is BS. All you people saying, oh, he's just so sweet and innocent and he was just there just being a good old citizen is BS. So can we please drop the facade that he is just God's little angel trying to protect that car dealership that didn't even want him there? Okay? Can we please just drop it? I'm not interested in the Rittenhouse case. Professor says, I thought the Bible's for everyone, including the United States. Sure, but my point is that the Bible was not written in red, white, and blue. There are a lot of people in this country, unfortunately, that think that the Bible was written for, it's kind of like how you have people like Marina Sirtis and Tim Russ who think that Star Trek is only for far left liberals. There are people that think that Christianity is only for far right conservatives, right? That's not true. Christianity is, in fact, for everybody, the liberal and the conservative. It's not ideologically based. And so when people say, oh, would Jesus support the Second Amendment? Jesus was not a politician. You know, Jesus was not a member of Congress. And he wasn't sitting there trying to discuss the pros and cons of constitutional amendments. You know what I don't think Jesus would have supported? Running around with, a semi-automatic rifle in the middle of the night to try and keep the peace. I don't think that, what would Jesus do? He would not have taken up arms. This is why subjects like Rittenhouse are dangerous unless conversation is live with very few people so that there isn't stepping on people. Yeah. Build Salty a Dune 3rd level navigator transport tank complete with spice. That would be nice. Hey, June, good to see you. Yes, you were asked, but without the relative facts, you can simply say, sorry, don't know enough to give an informed opinion. Or, Aberjam, I can just give my opinion because it's my channel. All right, and I'm sorry, that's my opinion. You want to know what I think? I think a 17-year-old given a weapon like that, a kid that does not have the maturity to handle that weapon clearly, as we saw, and now 2 people are dead. And we all want to parade it around like it's a victory for the Second Amendment. No, it's not. And you know why? Because now there's going to be more pushback than ever. And everybody's going to talk about what a great victory it is because a Southern judge who was extremely prejudiced was a Southern judge. Well, congratulations. All you've managed to do was throw another ounce of gasoline on the fire that's already burning. I hope everybody's happy now so that the fire can continue to burn, but that's not going to help anything. And I'm tired of everybody pointing the finger at one group or the other group and trying to say they're bad, we're good. I'm tired of it. Giving kids weapons like that is not a good idea. And 2 people are dead because of it. And we're acting like he's a hero. I'm happy Rittenhouse got off. It was a fair trial, and that's all that matters. Okay, Kermit. Rittenhouse no better than the white college boy swimming star that raped an unconscious woman behind the dumpster. Well, I don't know about that, T-Berg, but like I said, I don't think that a murder charge was appropriate, but I don't think that getting off scot-free was appropriate either. The Old and the New Testament does support self-defense, though some of his own disciples carried swords after all. Sure, Robert, you go ahead and show me right where Jesus says, hey, you know what you should do? Take your sword out and cut the bastards up. You show me that line. Please, show me where in the Bible Jesus advocates that we go out and cut the bastards up. Show me that. Okay, yeah, it was testified that they were wanted there. So yeah, let's drop the Rittenhouse trial subject. Well, you guys keep talking about it. Christianity is a world religion. And, Christianity is. Sci-Fi Nation says, in God we trust. It was a 1950s construct to fight communism in the USSR, nothing more or less. What's that got to do with anything? I don't know. Jordan says, random question. How come channels that just play clips of episodes or movies with no commentary don't get copyright strikes? Some of them do. Or they get, what they do is they'll get what's called content ID matches, which is different than a copyright strike. And if you get a content ID match, most of the time what'll happen is the ad revenue simply goes to the copyright owner. And he showed more maturity handling that weapon than people twice his age. Right, Bird. When Michael Burnham talks about taking the Kobayashi Maru in season 4, episode 1, how would she know she never went to Starfleet Academy? Change of topic. Well, did she actually talk about taking the Kobayashi Maru? I have to go back and rewatch. I don't even remember her saying that, but then I only watched it the one time and I was not paying that close attention to it. Because I was going to watch it again with Matthew last night and we never got around to it. So did she actually mention the Kobayashi Maru? Yeah, good question. Because, no, she did not go to the academy. To change the subject, I ran a face-off polls over the last few months. The final for best track movies will be Wrath of Khan versus Undiscovered Country. Do you agree these are the 2 best movies? Well, it depends on my mood. Honestly, Mountains. Because, you know, the Undiscovered Country has a little bit of baggage with it. I like Undiscovered Country a lot, but sometimes, depending on my mood, Undiscovered Country is very political. And while I do like it, if I'm not feeling like listening to the propaganda side of Trek, then I skip it. And if I'm not feeling like the political side of Trek, then I would go from Star Trek 2 and Star Trek 3. Albert Jones says, you're absolutely right. You have the opinion to state your opinion. When in doing so, you open your opinion to scrutiny. It's not consistent at that point to bitch about people questioning it. Sure, I can bitch about it. That's my right to do that. And then you can complain about me bitching about it. And we can go back and forth and back and forth. But the bottom line, Amberjam, is that I think that a murder charge was too much. But if you want to tell me that having a kid running around in a situation like that with those weapons unsupervised was a good idea, well, 2 people are dead and a third is permanently disabled, and everybody's acting like it's just freaking awesome. I guess the problem here is everyone disagrees with the verdict. I guess the problem here is everyone disagrees with the verdict, don't want to talk about what the people that got shot did wrong. Okay, let's talk about what did the people that got shot did wrong. Let's see. According to the defense, they were intimidated by a young man walking around with that was heavily armed. That's what they did wrong. That's according to the defense. And so he acted in self-defense because these people were intimidated by a young man heavily armed amongst them. Gotcha. Yeah, they were horrible people. Don't agree with on the Rittenhouse stuff. But it's the internet, and we have different opinions and views. I may not agree with you, but I respect your opinions and views. Well, I appreciate that. And it's, the funny thing is so now you guys are just saying that I haven't watched any of the trial, because you're going to just write it off that I'm ignorant. So let me say this, and then I will stop talking about the trial completely. Just because we disagree doesn't mean I didn't watch the trial. Okay? I understand that you seem to think that clearly anybody who's watched the trial must agree with you 100%. Clearly, the judge was completely reasonable. Clearly, the judge didn't show any bias whatsoever. Clearly, the judge didn't show any prejudicial action against the prosecution. Clearly, the kid acted completely within the confines of the law. Clearly, the thing to do when you're running around at a breakneck pace with a long rifle and you see someone behind you is to immediately whip around and shoot the person. Those are clearly what you do, right? Those are clearly the things that you do, and that's all perfectly normal. So I will remember that the next time I'm in your neighborhood, I will just run around with a long rifle, and if you happen to be running around the neighborhood, I'll just whip around and shoot you, but it'll be perfectly okay, and I can claim self-defense. Gotcha. But I didn't watch any of the trial because, I disagree with you. So please don't just say he didn't watch the trial because I disagree with you. I did watch a lot of the trial. I didn't watch all of the trial. Sorry, I didn't watch 100% of the trial. But, I disagreed with the verdict. However, I also don't think that Rittenhouse should have been convicted on murder. And I don't think that, and I'm sorry, but, I know you guys think that what he did was perfectly legal, whatever. You guys have fun with that. But I'm done. We're not talking about Rittenhouse anymore. I will ignore any further Rittenhouse comments. Let's see. Let's see. Arabic says Jesus rebuked an apostle for using a sword and even healed the victim's wound. Forgot which apostle it was. I believe it was Peter, actually. And that's why I said, show me the verse where Jesus said, slice the bastards up. Because he doesn't. He does, in fact, rebuke violence. And anyone who wants to claim to be a Christian should not be supporting violence. That's a Rittenhouse comment. At the end of the episode, when the president points out that Michael has a psychological need to save everyone, Michael talks about failing the test and wanting to take it again. Okay. I didn't catch that line. People are assuming okay, another Rittenhouse comment. Well, we are all have to run around each other's neighborhood with another Rittenhouse comment. And let's see. Anyone agrees with the opinion? Anyone drop their opinions and did not bring it up? Let's drop it. Yeah, you know what? Yeah, so everybody just wants to talk about the Rittenhouse thing, so I'm done. Have